gonna do another unedited video here about my last video, Quirked Up Pop Science, which I realized in hindsight might have been a little hyperbolic, and I don't think I really got all the points I was trying to make clearly across in it. So, for the record, I don't dislike all science. I like neurosurgery. I like, obviously, doctors. That stuff is cool. I don't like pop science. I don't like Mark Rober. I don't like William Eisman. I don't like Louis Weiss. All this stuff. I really think that making a video where you slap a fucking chicken 1,000 times, that's an affront to science. That is using science's name in the wrong type of way. And I think if Einstein was around today, he would look at something like that as kind of gaudy and excessive. I don't know. I don't know how Einstein would respond to that. I don't think he'd be that crazy about it. He probably wouldn't be the biggest fan of that kind of thing. And I like Einstein, but I don't think science will ever again see a figure as respectable, as humble, and as intelligent as Einstein. I don't think that'll ever happen again, that'll be like the forward face of science. And these days, the main figure of science who's like promoting science to everyone is Elon Musk. And Elon Musk fucking sucks. He's a dipshit. So it's like, science doesn't know how to brand itself because your main figure fucking sucks, and it's not Einstein. And I like Einstein. I like what Einstein represented. He's an example, I think, of a cool scientist, who wasn't full of himself, who wasn't like a massive egotist, who didn't think he was better than anyone else. And if you don't think that some scientists really are like full of themselves, that's just kind of deluded. I mean, you might be a scientist and you might not be full of yourself, but if you don't think that those type people do exist within the scientific field, that is very, very, it does happen. I've seen it happen a lot. And it's just a problem within science that some scientists do think they're better than everyone else. And that's the case with, religion too. But the difference between science and religion is I respect science because science is real shit. It's boring, but it's real. And, I can respect it on that basis. If you enjoy science, if you do really like science, I think that's cool. And in fact, I envy you. Because much like how a lot of people enjoy drugs, and I don't enjoy drugs, or a lot of people enjoy sex and I don't enjoy sex, if you enjoy science, that's cool because there's something fun in your life that I just can't experience, because to me science is nothing but boredom and misery. And I have a lot of repressed trauma experiences with science back in high school and middle school that were just terrible, and those influence my view on science. But if you enjoy doing completely predictable things that make complete sense, like if you enjoy figuring out how inertia works or whatever, then that's cool. Inertia works the way it's supposed to work. Momentum works the way it's supposed to work. Gravity works how it's supposed to work. Relativity works how it's supposed to work. I know relativity. I know a lot of basic science trivia and shit. I know enough about science to the point where it's all the science I'd ever need. And I think relativity is the most complete based theory that's ever been put forward. I don't really buy into quantum physics. That's just too complicated. I just like relativity because, it makes sense. Light travels a certain distance. It takes a while to reach us, so we see stars that have already burned out and shit. That makes sense. What Einstein says, it makes complete sense. And I like him for that. I like how what Einstein said makes sense. But I don't get why someone would slap a chicken 1,000 times just to cook it, because there's no discovery in that. There's not any question being asked. There's no hypothesis being put forth. It's just well, yeah, I know that if you hit something enough times, it'll get hot. That's just how it works. There's nothing cool about that. It's the same with a lot of really basic-ass science experiments. Let's mix baking soda and vinegar. It's fun the first time you do it when you're 5, but then when you've seen it enough times, you're just like, oh, that's what these two chemicals do when you mix them together. And, I just think science is boring and predictable. And that's why I do art, because art has never yielded anything but fun and enjoyment for me. And I think artists, especially because I don't consider art a hobby, it's not only my life's occupation, but it's also an intrinsic aspect of my identity, probably the most pronounced aspect of my identity. I identify first and foremost as an artist. So in a society that inherently discourages creative thought and only encourages analytical thought, that's an invalidation fundamentally of my identity, and it's society telling me that I can't be who I want to be. So when society does that, my response is going to be, up yours, I'm going to be who I want to be. And I think science is given too much an emphasis in this day and age. I remember in high school, the science classes, they were put up at the top of the roster. You got to take 2 science classes per year. Oh yeah, it's really important. It's great. Oh damn, here's all these connections to jobs. They got a neat little funnel. If you take the science classes, you just go up and ask the science teacher, hey, where do I sign up to Johns Hopkins Labs or whatever? And it's really easy to do that, because they have a nice little funnel where all the kids who want to be scientists can go for that. But you want to be an artist, oh, that's an elective, that's an extra, you don't have to do that, just do that 1 year, and I didn't even like my art classes, because all the art teachers were completely, unqualified. I had more disagreements with my art teachers than I ever did with my science teachers, but, I also don't like public education. I don't like private education more necessarily. I think public education is a much better option because I like public institutions over private institutions. But as far as I had it, as an autistic student, they don't know how to handle autistic people. They especially don't know how to accommodate artists. And it's not built for art. It's not built for creativity or free thought. The public education system in America fucking sucks, and it's terrible at actually getting students motivated, interested in what they want to do. And, I'm sure I offend a lot of teachers too, a lot of teachers who want respect and stuff, and I'd never consider becoming a teacher. That would feel like being a complete traitor. It's completely against my values. After what every teacher in my life did to me, just tell me I'm wrong and tell me that I'm stupid and oh, you can't do so and so. I'm just you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Eat your Jello, Grandpa Joe. I don't like teachers. I don't like the school system. I don't like people telling me what to do. So I don't like the educational apparatus here in America. And this might be kind of a radical perspective, but I don't even think the system where you have an adult teaching 25, 30 students at once, I don't even think that's effective, especially if it's just some rando who barely even wants to be there. Just like how society encourages people to be scientists, it really encourages people to be teachers. Oh, here's a big incentive. Teachers don't even get paid that much, but it's branded oh wow, you'll be helping out society, you'll be making a big impact, but you don't make a big impact. And most of the teachers I had were completely uninvested. They were bored to shit, and they quit after 3-4 years because it's just miserable. It's just a miserable life, and you realize you don't even like being around kids, and you don't understand any of them, and you try and come off as hip and cool, but you're not hip and cool if you're just shoving knowledge down their throats that none of them are interested in. And and it's not a coincidence somehow that people are being shoved into the science jobs more than the art sector. That is very much a systemic apparatus that should be analyzed and taken into account. Oh, our economy has a weird obsession with sciencey shit over artistic stuff that's more fulfilling to the human soul. And I don't believe in souls or anything, but there is something about humanity where you need art, and people take it for granted until there's just no new movies or books out, and people will be oh damn, where'd the entertainment go? So people need that, but artists historically have been undervalued. And, it used to be with religion, now it's with science. Science is, given special value. And I feel like what society is saying is, oh, you're less important. Because I do feel like that. I feel like artists are not given enough incentive to perform labor in modern society. I don't think that should be such a hot take. But my point is that public education isn't very effective. The most effective form of communication, I argue, and the best way of teaching young people about the world and about the human condition and really important shit, is to write a fucking book. Because a book can outlast you after you're dead. If it's really good, people will just keep on fucking reading it. And it basically makes you immortal. It's the closest thing to immortality. Now, obviously, none of my teachers wrote, books. Most of them were, milquetoast losers. But take someone like Frank Herbert. I'm currently on Dune Messiah, Dune Part 2. I learned more from reading the first Dune book than I learned from 4 years of public education. I learned more about the human condition, about politics, about all kinds of shit from the first Dune book alone. And if that doesn't speak to the failure of public education, I really don't know what does. Reading Dune, I was like, oh my gosh, but in public education settings, you don't read science fiction because science fiction is put in the book ghetto, and it's segregated from the supposedly great shit like Catcher in the Rye and To Kill a Mockingbird. And I remember I read To Kill a Mockingbird. I was forced to for my high school English class, and I don't like that book at all because it's just set in the South in the 20s. And it's oh, did the crack redneck rape his daughter, or did the black guy do it? And it's obviously the crack redneck did it. Why am I reading about a regressive society that sucks ass, that blows chunks, when I could be reading about Paul Atreides and his fucking sandworm adventures? Dune's the shit. I'm not sponsored by Dune or anything, but frick, I wish I was. Dune's the shit. It blows To Kill a Mockingbird's lame ass out the water any day. But you probably won't see it on any high school curriculum because it's got assassination and sandworms and cool shit. And just in the first chapter of Dune 2, I've already learned about Golas and Tleilaxu face dancers and the Mirabasa language, all these cool fucking concepts that Frank Herbert imagined up. And that shit's way more interesting than actual science, because it's imaginary, and fiction can do that. You just make shit up, and it can be cool, and it can actually teach you more about the real world than the real world is capable of, because it's going on in your fucking noggin. And art is cool, and more people should recognize that. So yeah, I recommend Dune. This book's the shit. I'm really getting a kick out of it. But, it's not really incentivized. Even so, the public education system can't stop people from reading fucking Dune. And a lot of young people my age have enjoyed reading Dune, and they really liked it. And I think that's cool. And I think Dune will be an enduring classic for years and decades to come. And it frickin' deserves to be, because it's well written to shit. But that's the way to actually teach people shit, is to write a book and preserve your thoughts in it, because you can communicate your thoughts better if you write them down, as opposed to if you're just standing in front of 30 people one day. You can barely gather your thoughts in that type of scenario, and nobody is going to remember you. You're only memorable if you're in print, and you have the time to really calculate what you're saying and be jocular with people and get them on your side. Einstein has a lot of written work. I'm sure that reading a book by Einstein is more entertaining, and he's better at it than if I got a lecture from him. I think that's the case. I'd like a lecture from Einstein, but that is the case. The last point I would like to make, and this is really what it boils down to, is a lot of people think, oh, well, my teacher was bad, but I'll just become a better teacher. And it's you don't fix a broken system by participating in a broken system. You fix a broken system by ignoring the broken system and participating in a better alternative to the broken system. For example, in Florida, suppose you're trans and you're trying to teach your students about the trans experience, right? And you want to prove to them that, like, trans people are people and they deserve respect and civil rights and all this. Governor Ron DeSantis, guess what? He controls the entire public education system down there. So all of a sudden, it's illegal to teach students about trans people. And you might say, oh, well, I'll just do it. Well, you get fired. So that's how it works. You know, the same oppressive system that's keeping these outdated ideas in existence is the same one that owns the fucking school system that is, like, corporate funded and shit, you know, because this is America. It's not really like actually like a socialist public institution. It's just designed to fund, you know, big ass companies and shit. And all these Floridian students, I guess, you know, probably just become fucking Disneyland employees or whatever. But, you know, you're not going to be able to teach your students about, like, the trans experience. On the other hand, if you exercise your free speech, which for the moment, as far as I'm aware, is constitutionally protected on a federal level, even in the absolute cesspit that is Florida, you can at the very least go out and hang up, like, some posters or shit, or march outside the Florida Capitol with a sign. And by directly participating in civic activity like that, you will be way more visible than if you just try to be like a teacher who can instantly be fired. You know, because most teachers don't even have tenure. They don't even last that long. And nobody makes it to, like, fucking 40 years as a teacher or whatever. None of my teachers were like these wizened old bards. They're all just a bunch of fucking millennials and shit. And, you know, just like, you know, it's really an outdated idea. You can do a lot more good by just hanging up posters of, like, Ron DeSantis taking a big dump or something embarrassing and exercising your free speech like that. It's funnier, it's more memorable, and more people will get on your side like that. So yeah, the printed media is a more effective means of communication and education than the school system. At least in America. It might be different in other countries, but here in America, our educational system blows chunks. So I would not put that much stock into it. And I don't like teachers, and I don't like scientists. And, you know, I'm sure there's plenty of fine individuals in both fields. And I don't want to offend anyone, but at the same time, it is my lived experience. And, you know, lived experience is a tricky thing because it's very subjective and everyone has a different one. I don't see anything appealing about either profession. It just sounds boring, and I want to vomit my mind onto a canvas, and society does not incentivize that enough, but it needs to do better, and the only way to make it do better is to promote the arts, and that's what I hope to do. So, you know, just a thought. And I hope that any scientist can agree with me that you know, I know you guys aren't just a bunch of deranged chicken slappers. So call this shit out if you see it. If you see something that's just, like, stupid, just be willing to admit, oh, this isn't in the pursuit of actual learning. It's just lame and wasteful and stupid. You know, just be willing to say that. Just be capable of making light of yourself a little bit. I know scientists can do that. I doubt priests can, but, you know, I'm sure scientists can. You know, you're rational, skeptical, level-headed individuals, and I just don't happen to be in the scientific arena. I'm in the fucking artistic arena, and I don't care if society discourages my existence, because I'm going to keep being around, and all I've ever found enjoyment in is making art, and science is really, really boring to me. But, you know, whatever. Yeah, that's all I really had to say. Read Dune, and all the Dune books. They're really good. Yeah.